Hi friends, welcome to Knowledge Share. A very happy new year to everyone. Today we are going to see how we can use PNP Core SDK in Azure Function. As you all are aware, PNP Core SDK has been released quite a long time, and the PNP team has done a great job releasing this Core SDK, where it uses both SharePoint web service and also Graph SDK. So it automatically switches back and forth between the normal web service and the Graph SDK, and we can also configure whether to use Graph SDK or not. And based on the functionality of feature, it will switch back and forth. The main advantage of using this SDK is it handles all the boilerplate code, and it provides us many helper methods, and it also allows us to inject custom service since it has been developed using ASP.NET Core. So we can also leverage on the dependency injection, and we can add more feature to this. There are many advantages using this SDK, but my favorite one is batching. It automatically handles batch process, so all the requests to the graph are sent in batch. So even though we use the normal camel query and LinQ method, but in the back end they are processing it as a batch using Graph SDK. So if you are not aware of PNP Core SDK, I will include the documentation URL in the video description. Please have a look at it. It's a very useful SDK, and you can do a lot more using this SDK. Now let us see the steps that we are going to perform in this video. So first, let us see what are all the prerequisites for creating Azure Function using Visual Studio, and what are all the tools you need to install. Second is the creation of certificates. The certificate is required for authentication to SharePoint Online using Azure Function. Third is app registration and API permission. So we have to register an app in Azure and assign appropriate permissions for Graph or SharePoint, so that our API will use this app to communicate with SharePoint. Next is, before deploying to Azure, we will be testing this API locally, which will directly communicate with SharePoint Online using some configuration with the tenant ID, client ID, and the certificates, which we will see in the later part of the video. Next is settings to publish the API to Azure Function. Before publishing the API to Azure Function, there are a couple of settings which we need to verify it. We will see one by one in detail. And once the Azure Function is deployed to Azure, then there are a couple of other settings which we need to verify directly in Azure. And at last, once our Azure Function app is deployed to Azure, we can test it directly using the Azure Function API URL. So these are all the steps which we are going to perform. Let us see one by one in action. Before going into the steps, I just want to show you the documentation and also a couple of links which are very useful. The first is PNP Core SDK documentation. I will include the documentation link in the video description. Here, if you see here, they have a detailed description of what this SDK is and what are all the features it has, what it can be done, do's and don'ts, and the API documentation, and they have also given some samples. So for example, here you can see a different sample for Azure version 3 and version 4 function, and how you can use this SDK in ASP.NET Core, Blazor app, in WPF app, in Raspberry Pi. So there are different examples which are available to us, provided by the community. So you can leverage this example and then you can enhance it, and you can customize it based on your business logic. Using the SDK, you can see different functionalities, different features. For example, if you see in the list overview, so how you can use this list object and what all the information you can get it from SharePoint and how you can use it. So they have provided with some example. You can just try these examples, and they have also some tutorials where you can download the sample console or Azure Function application, and then you can try it out. So now we will start with the step 1, which is the prerequisites for creating Azure Function using Visual Studio. So in this demo, I'll be using Visual Studio Community Edition 2019. So I am using the version 16.11.12. And if you see the installer setup, here I have installed ASP.NET and Web Development and Azure Development, and I have also installed Desktop Development and Office or SharePoint Development and Cross-Platform Development. The main component required is Azure Development and ASP.NET and Web Development. So these are all the main things which are required for developing Azure Function. And the next is you need to install Azure Storage Emulator in order to test the API locally. Because if you have deployed in Azure, so there will be a storage account created on the backend. But in local, if you want to test the Azure Function API, you need to have the storage emulator, which will simulate like a Azure storage. So I'll also include the direct installer, and this is the link to the storage emulator where you can go through the information, how it works, and what are all the features and why we need to install it. I will include the direct link to the installer in the video description. The second step is the creation of certificates. So for that we will use PowerShell. Just open the Windows PowerShell using admin privilege, and we will be running certain commands to create the self-signed certificate, and also we will be creating the CRT file and the PFX file which are required to upload into Azure for the authorization. So now let me start creating the self-signed certificate. So here I am just using the command new self-signed certificates, and the cert location is my local machine, and it will be stored in my personal. And the DNS name I have given is SPAZ function 3. So once I have executed this self-signed certificate command, so it will display the thumbprint. So make sure you take a note of this thumbprint, so which we will be using this thumbprint in the later commands. Next is just create a password. So for the PFX file with the private key, we need the password. So the certificate which we are going to use it for authorization using the PNP Core SDK, which is one of the methods. If you look at the documentation, there are many authentication methods which we can leverage on, but for Azure Function API, we are going to leverage on the certificate method because there are authentication methods like use device login and open the browser and then authenticate it. So since Azure API will be running on the back end without any user interaction, we are going to use this certificate authentication method, and for that we need to have the certificate with a private key. So just create a password using this command. So I am just giving a password as SPAZ function 3, and I am just storing it in the variable pwd. Next, using the thumbprint, I am just going to export the certificate which is created using this password. So I am just exporting this certificate with the private key, the file as extension as PFX using this password. So this will create a PFX file in the given path, which we will be using it in the later part. So execute this command. So the PFX file is created. Now we have to use the same command without the password to create the CRT file. So the same command I have just removed the password parameter alone. So I'm just using the same thumbprint. You can verify the thumbprint which starts with B1 and then ends at 2B. The same thumbprint I am using it, and then I'm just exporting it as a CRT file. So now I have created the PFX file and the CRT file. The only mistake I made is I'm using SP Azure function 3, but I have just named the file as Azure function 2. So what I will do is, so this is where the function, this is where the cert is created. So let me rename the cert as 3. Okay, so now we have SP function 3.crt and SP Azure function 3.pfx. Now we are ready to use these certs in our application. Log into your Azure portal, navigate to Azure Active Directory, and on the left hand side you should see app registration. Click on app registration and click on new registration. So I will register a app SP Azure function 3, and supported account type. As of now I am selecting only accounts in this tenant, that is a single tenant. So in future videos I'll be showing you how you can use the same Azure function API for multi-tenant. Okay, so just choose this option as single tenant and then click register. So once the application is registered, we have to copy the client ID and the tenant ID. So I'll just make a note of this client ID and tenant ID. Next, click on the authentication. So make sure it is selected as single tenant. Next is certificates and secrets. So click on the certificate, click on the upload certificate. Here you have to upload the generated CRT file. Click on select a file and choose the CRT SP Azure function 3.crt, and you can just give any description. And click add. So you can also see the thumbprint here. You can verify the thumbprint here, which starts with B1 and ends at 2B. So the next is API permission. So here in this demo, I'm just going to read a specific list, and then I'll show the title of the list, the template of the list, and then the number of items in that list. So for that, I just need a read permission. So in order to give the permission, click on add permission and choose SharePoint and application permission. You should not select delegated, you should select application permission, and search for sites. So there are many permissions like full control, manage, read, read write, and selected. I'm just going to select only read.all and click add permission. So you can see the permission is added, but it is not consent. So give a admin consent. Since it is going to run as an API, there won't be any user interaction to give the individual user consent. So it's always better to give an admin consent, and make sure whatever the permission you are giving it here is the right one and which is correctly used by the app. And the app, you have to trust it, because once it is grant consent by the administrator, the app will have a full control on whatever the permission you are going to give. So make sure you trust the app and make sure the permissions are used in a right manner. So I'll just click grant admin consent and then click yes. So now the permission is granted, and now we are finished with the app registration. Let me summarize it. So first, go on to the Azure, click on Azure Active Directory. On the left hand side, click on app registration, and you should see the new registration. So click on new registration, give your app a name and select single tenant and click register. So once you have registered, you should see your app. Just make a note of the client ID and the tenant ID, so which we will be using it in Visual Studio. Next, move on to authentication. Verify that you have selected only single tenant. Next is certificates and secrets. Choose the certificate tab, click upload certificate and then select the CRT file that you have generated, give a description of your choice and then click add. Next is API permission. Click on add permission, choose SharePoint or Microsoft Graph, whichever you are intent to use. I have selected SharePoint. Click on SharePoint and choose application permission. It should not be a delegate, it should be an application permission, and choose your permission and then click add. So if the permission requires admin consent, please give the admin consent. So before we start coding the Azure Function API, there is one more step where you have to install the certificates to your local personal store. Then only you can test your API locally. So let us install the certificate first. So make sure you install the PFX certificate because that is the one which has the private key. So if you see my personal certificate, that is the certificate manager. So you won't be able to see SP Azure Function 3, which is the one I have created recently. So, and make sure you have the password which is used when you create the certificate. So double click on the PFX file. So you will be provided with this import wizard. Choose current user, click on next. So it will provide you the location from where to import. Make sure it is the correct location, click next and enter the password which you have used while generating the certificate. So I'll just enter my password and click next. No need to choose any other option, just click next and make sure you select this option, place all certificates in the following store. Click on browse and choose personal and click on next and click on finish. So once it is done, you should be able to see the import was successful message. Click OK, open the certificate manager, refresh it. You should see this SP Azure Function 3 certificate and make sure you have this key symbol which includes the private key. So when you are running your code locally, this certificate with the private key is the main thing which is required. If it is not, then it will throw an exception like certificate parameter is null. So make sure you don't forget this step. Now we are ready to write the code. So open Visual Studio 2019 and choose create new project. Since I have created a lot of Azure Function console app and console application, you can see the recent project template here. And if you are not able to see it, just search for function. You should see Azure Function. Click on it. I am going to write the code in C#. So just choose this Azure Function template, click next and give your project a name. So here I'll be giving the same name, SP Azure Function 3, and I'll choose a specific folder. So usually I'll place my solution and project in the same directory. It's your wish. You can also place your solution and project in a different directory, but I prefer to save it in the same. So I'll select this checkbox and then click on create. So here you are provided with the trigger option. So usually in Azure Functions, when you create an Azure Functions, there are multiple trigger you can see like service bus queue trigger, HTTP trigger, timer, queue, blob. There are different triggers, and here we are going to use HTTP trigger. So it is by default, it is selected, and you can see since I have installed the Azure Storage Emulator, it is showing the Azure Local Storage Emulator, and the authorization level here it is showing as function. I'll make it as anonymous. So for demo purpose, I'm just giving it as an anonymous, but for production you should be using the function as an authorization level with a code. Okay, so I'll just choose the function authorization level and I'll just click create. So now the project is creating. Let us wait for its creation. So now the project is created, so it will take some time to make sure the DLL and other things are perfect. So now it is done creating. So now let us run the project. So click on the play button. So here you can see there is only one function, HTTP trigger function. The name is function1, and you can see the function1 and the local URL is HTTP localhost 7071 API function, and here it is doing nothing. It is just getting the query string name parameter, and then it is displaying some message. That's it. So let us see how it works. So I'll just copy this URL. I'll go to the browser, open a new tab, and then paste it. So now you can see the message saying that the function triggered successfully. Pass a name in the query string. So since I have just executed this function without the query string, it is displaying this message. So if I just pass in some parameter, it is taking the parameter name and then it is displaying hello Sudarshan, this HTTP triggered function executed successfully. So this clearly shows that your function is executed successfully locally. Let us close this browser. Let us stop the execution. Now we need to update this code with using the PNP Core SDK and other SharePoint features. Okay, so let us start doing that. First we need to do is we need to install a couple of NuGet package. So in order to do that, just go to manage NuGet package, right click on the project, select manage NuGet package, go to browse and make sure search for pnpcore.auth. So you need to install pnp.core and pnp.core.auth. So just select core.auth. Automatically the dependency package pnp.core will automatically get installed. So here I am just installing the latest stable version 1.5. I'll just click install. Okay, the package is installed. The next we need to install this Microsoft.azure.functions.extensions. So this is the second package which is required. Click on it. The latest stable version is 1.1.0. Click install. That's it. So only these two packages are installed. You can verify the packages in the dependency folder. You can see core.auth and azure.functions.extension. So now let us create a class file named startup.cs where we will define the boilerplate code like a dependency injection for PNP core, and also we will specify what type of authentication to be used and what are all the default PNP core settings. You can refer all these settings in the PNP core documentation. As I mentioned, there are different settings for different authentication which we can leverage on. Since we are going to use the certificate authentication method, I am just going to leverage on the certificate settings. So let me write the code for that. So I'll just name this file as startup.cs. So I'll just add a couple of reference here, which is extension.dependency injection, PNP core.auth and cryptography. And I'll also make sure that this file is the startup file. So now this file will run whenever we run this project. So I'll just copy paste the code and then I'll explain it after that. So here we are using the function startup extension method. Whenever we run this project, this API, this code will run first and then followed by our HTTP trigger. And here we are getting the configuration as a config. And next is we are just going to have a declare an object for the Azure function settings, which is a separate interface class which we will be defining it. That is nothing but the property class where whatever the settings which we required, like tenant ID, client ID, certificate thumbprint, those are all created as a properties, and then we are going to use that properties, we are going to bind that properties to the config. And as I mentioned previously, PNP Core is provided a dependency injection for us to inject different service. So if you want the telemetry to be disabled, make sure this disable telemetry is equal to true. And next is we are going to configure the auth provider. Since we are going to use the certificate method, we are going to use this option X509 certificate authentication provider. Configure the client ID and the tenant ID, and the store name is my and the current user. So when you deploy into Azure, we have already uploaded our certificate in the Azure app, and when we deploy this function in the Azure function app, we will be uploading the PFX file in the function app settings, so it will automatically use that settings. But in order to run locally, we already uploaded the PFX file in our local, so this is where we configured. And we will set this default authentication provider, and we will also add this sites.add default, and the site URL we will get it from the local.settings.json. So this is the default boilerplate code which you can get it from the PNP Core site. So now we will create the Azure function settings file. So I'll just create this settings with a couple of properties like site URL, which site we are going to access it, the tenant ID and the client ID, which we already have it, which we got it from the app registration. The certificate store name and certificate store location, which is not required because we have already given it directly here, store name.my, our current user, which you can also specify it using the configuration. And the last is the certificate thumbprint. So these are all the settings which we will be receiving it from the local.settings when you are running it locally, and the same settings will be copied to your Azure function app. So now we will update this local.settings.json file. So by default, the web storage, in order to run this Azure function API locally, it needs a web storage, so that it will have the default value as development storage equal to true, which indicates that it will use the Azure storage emulator which is installed on our local machine. Now we will copy the thumbprint and the other settings. So the first is site URL. So this is the site I am going to use, which is m365devpractice.sharepoint.com sites APAC RDMS. The tenant ID and the client ID. So the tenant ID will be this, which this is the tenant ID 316, and we are going to have the client ID as I'll just make this client ID. And next we will have the thumbprint, but the thumbprint should be given in two settings. One is certificate thumbprint and another one is website load certificates. So this is not the actual thumbprint. Our thumbprint which starts with B1 and ends at B2B. So I'll just paste it. Make sure the formatting is right. So these are all the settings which we will be using. One is the site URL, tenant ID, client ID, the tenant ID and the client ID which we can receive it from the app registration, certificate thumbprint and website load certificates, both refer to as the certificate thumbprint which we have already. So if you see in the startup, this is the site URL. So this site URL is mapped. So on the function API, we will be using this default parameter to get the function to communicate with SharePoint. Next is we are going to update the HTTP trigger function. So what I did is I have just changed this function1.cs file to http functions.cs. Next is we are going to add the using. So the first is core.services, the second is core.model.sharepoint. So inside that we are going to declare a variable called PNP context factory, which we will be using it in the later. And next is we are going to declare a constructor for this function, and before that we need to remove the static. So always the default HTTP functions will be static. Please make sure you remove the static from the class and also from the triggers. So what we have done is we have created a variable called IPNP context factory, and we have also created a constructor function PNP context factory and then assigned this context factory to this variable. Now we are going to change the function name as getListDetails, name of getListDetails, and make sure you maintain the same name here. And we are just going to read the information. So just get method is only the allowed, not the post method, and since we have chosen the authorization level as anonymous while creating the triggers, so here it is shown as anonymous. And there will be a parameter called request and ilog, so we don't have to worry about that in this video. So next we will be updating this function. So once the function triggered, it will log the information as triggered the getListDetails function. Next we are using the variable. We are using the PNP context factory dot create async, which will create a new instance of the PNP context using the variable default. So automatically this default is mapped to our site. So once it is created, we will be navigating to the list. We will be getting the list called branch. As you can see, this is the site APAC RDMS, and this is the branch list which has 3 items. So I am just getting the list, and this is a LINQ query. Since we are using the API, the information that you required must be precise. You cannot get all the information, so you have to be very careful because it involves performance, because you are running it from the client side. So make sure you just get the information that is required. So I'll be getting the item title, list title, the template type, and also the item count. So there is a property called item count. Instead of getting all the items and then getting the count, there is a property called item count. So I'll be getting only these 3 details, and then I'll be returning the OK object successful return result as title as list.title, template as template type, and the item count as item count. So 3 properties return: title, template, and template type and item count. So now we are ready with the code. So let us build the code. Okay, fine. It's a good sign, successfully built. Now let us run the code. So now this is the local API. So since I have started the Azure storage emulator in my local machine, so you didn't get any message. So if it is the first time you are running the Azure Function API locally, then it will try to start the emulator first, and then it will start your API. So don't worry about the performance. For the first time, in order to start the emulator, it will take some time, but on the frequent running, so it will be fast. So I'll just copy this API. I'll just paste it and then execute it. So for the first time, it will take some time. So now it returned. So the title is branch, template type is 100, and the item count is 3. So if you see it here, so you can see the log, triggered the get list detail function and executed get list details. So make sure you're running the correct one. I'll just delete this item. Okay, so now there are only 2 items in the branch list. I will refresh this and see the count is changed. Now you can see only 2 items. So this concludes that our local API is working and it is communicating with SharePoint without any issues because of the app we registered and the certificates we used. So next, let us see how we can publish this function app to Azure. Now we will see how to publish the API to Azure function. So this is the code. I will show you how you can publish the API using Visual Studio, and you can also use Azure function CLI, but for starters it is very easy to use Visual Studio and you can directly publish it to Azure. So click on the project, click publish. So you'll be provided with the target dialog. Select Azure and you can choose whether you need a Windows, Linux or app container. So for now I'll choose Windows. So the next is the function instance where you need to select the Azure account. You need to log in with your Azure account and then you need to select the subscription name. So you can have 1 or more subscription. Select the correct subscription and choose the resource group. So here I have already created the function app. So if you have created the function app using Azure portal, then it will be listed down here. Else you can also click plus to create a new function app. So it will be provided with a default name with some random numbers. So you can choose your own name. So it will get validated and then it will show you whether the name is available or not. So I'll give the SP function app as Azure function app as SPAZ function 3 subscription and the default resource group. So I'll select the resource group, and there are different plans. So the best is to, in order to try some Azure function, you can choose the consumption plan. So instead of going for premium or app service plan, try to choose the consumption plan for trial and error method. So I'll select the location as Southeast Asia and Azure storage. There is already a storage available. So I have selected this storage. In case if there is no storage, then you can click on new and then you can give a storage account name, choose the location, and you can also choose the account type, whether it is locally redundant, global or region and globally redundant. So since I have the storage account, I'll choose this. I'll just click on create to create the function app. So we'll see you once the function app is created. As you can see, the function app is created and it is listed down in this function app dialog. So select the function app and choose run from package file command. So run from package file is nothing but all the codes will be packaged and then the API on the Azure will be running from our package. So you can't edit the code using the Azure function portal. So whenever you have a change or you need to update something, you have to update locally, test it, and then again publish it. So that is how you can do the package deployment. Or you can also use Azure CLI to package and then you can deploy it via Azure CLI commands. So now I have chosen the SP Azure function 3 function app. So before that, let's see whether it is created in Azure portal or not. So if you see the function app, so this is the one which we created via Visual Studio. So the function app is created. Okay, so now let us go and finish it. So I'll click finish. So now it will get all the information, and then it will provide us with a list of information whichever we configured and created for us to publish the function. So if you see here, the configuration is release, target runtime is portable. You can just edit it and then click and see the profile settings. So the configuration is release any CPU, target framework is 3.1, and deployment mode is framework dependent or self-contained, and the target runtime is portable, or you can choose any other runtime. So on the file publish option, so I'll leave it everything as default. So target runtime, so it is same. And you can also see the subscription ID, resource group, the username and other details, and this will be the function app site. So here one more thing you have to do is you need to deploy the local settings. I hope you remember there are some settings which we have defined, like client ID, tenant ID, the site URL. So we need to update those settings, and those settings also need to be deployed to Azure function. So click on this manage. So here it will show all the local settings, and you can just click this link, insert value from the local, or you can enter a different URL. Whenever you deploy, that URL will be updated in the Azure function app settings. So I'll just use the same URL. I'll just click on this insert value from local. So for me, all the values are same. It should be from local. So I'll just click everything and certificate thumbprint. So this one is Azure Web Storage. So for development in local, it will use the emulator, and for remote, it automatically defines the connection string from the storage account. So you don't have to change this. So please be careful while updating this. If you update it from the local, so your function won't work. So it should be an Azure storage account. It cannot be a local development. So other settings, you can leave as it is. So we just need to update the site URL, tenant ID, client ID, certificate thumbprint, and website load certificates. In case if you have any other settings that are not listed down, you can also click this add settings, and then you can click add. So now I click OK. So now it is saving back in the Azure app settings. So now it is saved. Now it is time for us to publish it. So one more thing, if you encounter any issues in your function app which is working locally but it is not working in Azure, means in order to troubleshoot, the best possible way is to enable this application insights. So it will give us the log, and whenever if you have mentioned any log functions in your methods, then all the logs you can verify it in the Azure itself. So since this is a demo purpose, I haven't enabled this. So with this settings, I'll just click publish. It will take some time to publish. So once it is published, we will see how to run it from the Azure. Now the function app is published. If you can see here, it has build, publish, and it has packaged and then published the zip file to our function app. Once the deployment is succeeded, it is waiting for the app to be ready, and the app is ready. So it is finished. So now if you go to the Azure portal and click on your function app, so on the overview page there should be some memory working set, and you can see the URL here. When you click on this URL, you should see this page. Your function app 3 app is up and running. So it means that your app is ready and you can use your function. And one more thing before you execute the function, click on this configuration and check whether your local settings are updated in Azure. So here inside the application settings, you can see thumbprint, client ID, site URL, tenant ID, and then website load certificates. So these are all the settings which we pushed from local, and you can also compare the values. So I have already compared the values. The values are updated from the local settings. So now if you click on this functions, you can see your function. In this demo, we have created get list details as a function. And click on this function. So you can grab the URL, get function URL. I have just grabbed this URL and go to this, open a new browser and click on paste and go. Okay, let us wait for the response. Oops. So now the function app isn't working. So there is one more step which is that we missed. That is, just go to the function app. Just go to your function app and go to the TLS SSL settings. Click on this private key certificate and click upload. And here you have to upload the PFX file, which is SP Azure function PFX file, and just give the password. The password which you have used to generate the PFX file. So once the certificate is uploaded successfully, it will validate and then it will provide you with a thumbprint. And now, so we have uploaded the certificate. So once you have uploaded the certificate in the TLS SSL settings, after that when you browse the app, it will throw the same issue. So just go to the overview tab, restart the function app. So once the function app is restarted, now if you go and refresh the page, you should see the result. So the item count is 3. So now let me go to the site. Let me go to the list and then I will create a new branch. So I'll just save it. So now here it is mentioning as 2 item count. Now I have just created a new item. Now if I refresh it, we should see the item count is changed. So this is confirmed that our function from Azure Function app is working. So it is using PNP Core SDK and then it is getting the details from the SharePoint online list. So this is how you can develop a Azure function, leverage on the PNP Core SDK, and then you can communicate with SharePoint online. So I hope you had learned something new and some information on the Azure function. In future video, I will show you how you can create a durable function. Because if you see in Azure Function API, there are some limitations based on the plans. Some plan will allow the function to execute for 5 minutes and some plan for 10 minutes. And there are some long time running job which may require more than 5 to 10 minutes. So in that case, durable function is the best choice, where you can create many activity function. It is like a parent-child function. So based on activity, each function will be triggered. At that time, the main function will go to sleep. So it won't affect the running time of the function. So we'll see all these detail in future videos. For now, you just try this method of deploying a Azure function, tested in locally and then deploying it to Azure. Thank you. Thanks for watching. Have a good day.